Is everyone? I'm just checking on because I think that I'm just seeing who's here.
We've got all the presenters for sure.
Awesome, that's brilliant.
I was just saying, you won't believe this, but me and Katherine know each other through parkour.
Of course you do. Oh, I didn't know parkour. Okay, wow. Small world, eh?
Yeah.
Parkour world.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so Katherine, you're going to be first up. So just so you know, when it's time for you to do your PowerPoint, which is like embedded in our master one, if you just hit take control at the top and then move through the arrows, and just whatever you do, don't press stop presenting because it causes a load of nightmares for me.
Okay, I think I've got it. I think my layout might look a little bit different because I'm sort of using the online version rather than the actual app, but I think I know what I'm doing.
Awesome. If not, I'm here for tech support, so just give me a
Cool. So do you want me to crack on?
Tess, I assume you're gonna.
Sorry, yes, I probably should say before I say, I should actually do a little bit of an introduction to you all. So thank you all for coming today for the Berkofsky Arts Award panel today. I'm really happy that we've got some former recipients of the award and all alum of the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Cultures. All from different schools as well. We've got Katie, who is in design. We've got Callum, who is in media and communication. Ed in music, and Poppy Jones Little, who was in FAHACS. Well, so my memory is good today. So yeah, so all of them will be sharing a bit of their top tips, what they got out of the scheme, and there should be time at the end for questions if you have any. So you can use the chat function to ask questions, but we'll ask all the questions after all the presenters have talked. So yeah, so it's over to Katherine.
Take control. Right, okay. Yeah, thank you so much. So I thought I'd just use this presentation a little bit as some of sort of my top tips on applying, what to expect from applying, sort of what I did with the fund. Yeah, and just kind of being like uber transparent really about that. Sorry, getting a phone call. There we go. Right, so let's make a start. How do I move the slides? Oh, here we go. Right, yeah, so that's me, Studio Katherine James. So yeah, as Tess said, I was from design, so School of Design in studying art and design. So my project was quite sort of fine art / design based. One of the first things that you find when you apply for Berkofsky is they have these sort of 3 criteria for the sort of successful application. So the first one is obviously that you have to have had a strong academic background, so a first in at least one module. One of the second points that they look for is like the quality of the proposal, which I think it's quite tempting to look at that first one and sort of see, oh, I have to be sort of academically excellent and think that you have to write some really sort of world-beating, like academic complex proposal. But what I would urge you to do is just keep your proposal quite simple, set some like really clear aims, and just focus on making your proposal you know, looking at how you're going to reach those aims. But the third point that they mention, that they draw you to, is this impact on your development and your the impact on your career going forwards. And this was one of the things that I really chose to focus on in my application, and also what I did with the fund. So the fund is £2,000, so it's quite a substantial amount of money. So it can have a big impact on you if you choose to sort of spend it wisely. So this is just a little, so I graduated in 2020. So obviously that was a very challenging time at any point. So with the prize, I actually ended up having to wait quite a long time to put my proposal on. So I did this small exhibition at Left Bank, Leeds, which some of you will know is like an arts venue on Cardigan Road. So my practice is based around ideas of sort of gender and materiality. So I was putting on this exhibition where I had these worn pieces of chainmail, some jewellery pieces, and the photographic pieces. and I had these chainmail pieces which I make into sort of lacy patterns and things, and it's sort of combining this masculine, feminine identity of the materials to look at how we can sort of create objects that represent more fluid ideas of gender, which we obviously understand today. So I ran the exhibition for 2 weeks, and then in the sort of middle week, the main part of the project was my sort of Meet the Artist Day. So we did a lot of marketing and advertised out, and so the day was comprised in sort of 3 sections. I ran a lecture at the start of the day where I sort of just gave, a background of my practice and the inspiration behind the work and my research. And then we went into a seminar, which was more a sort of 2-way discussion with the people who'd signed up to the day, and that was us looking at other people's perspectives on gender and their kind of interactions with different materials and things like that, and just broadening up that discussion. And then the last part of the day, we did a practical workshop, which originally was kind of meant to, when I pitched it originally, it was meant to be sort of this, everyone takes away a sort of symbolic piece of jewelry and it's very empowering and all this sort of thing, with this kind of conversation around gender. But really, by the time it came around, everyone had been in lockdowns and everyone was very tired, that we just sort of pitched it more as a kind of mindfulness activity, that you're going to come and do some, learn a new skill among other people. And it was just more of a sort of relaxed environment by that point. So that was my day. So what I wanted to do was just give you some pointers on when you're writing your application, some things that might help you to be successful in your pitch. So the first thing they ask you to do is write a description of the activity and the outcome. So I started with just a couple of sentences of like an overview of my practice, just to introduce myself. So just, my practice, is looking at gender through materiality, and I combine chainmail and lace to make wearable sculptures, photography, and larger sculptures and things like that. So just two or three sentences, really simple, introduce yourself and your practice. And then again, another couple of sentences just to give a real, to the point description of the aim of your project. So for me, it would have been something like, introducing these ideas of gender and materiality to a wider audience, maybe, opening up a discussion around gender and materiality. And then I went on to talk through, literally just to the point again, what was my plan, step by step, put on an exhibition, lead this workshop, lead this lecture, lead this seminar, and then revisit how you're going to meet your aims through those activities at the end. But like I say, just, don't try and be sort of overly academic. Just make sure that you're being really clear in what your aim is and how you're reaching that aim through the activity. But then I wanted to go back onto this third point that we were talking about before with the impact on your career. So I've written at the bottom here some of the skills that I gained through delivering this project. So obviously things like working with the venue, the photography, the copywriting. There was a lot of marketing copywriting that I had to do to advertise the event, to get people to buy tickets and to turn up for the talks and things. And then obviously you can take this on to your next things that you apply for. If you apply for further funding for other projects, or applying for jobs and things like that. Things like being able to say that you've managed a fairly substantial budget and that you've met aims and objectives of a project and written reports on that is all good things for a CV. But the last point that I wanted to draw your attention to was that I was looking to diversify my practice. So although I obviously have this sort of sculptural and artistic practice, what I wanted to do was to develop something that I could take forwards that would create more of a sustainable future for myself, so that I don't have to necessarily give all of this up once I graduate and go and get a different job or something. So I wanted to be able to offer these talks and workshops going forwards. So obviously a lot of the money went towards the equipment and things that I would give to the participants of the workshop. But then obviously I keep all those now. So if I was to approach a new venue, I could offer that workshop again and again and again. And that helps create a sustainable future for me as a sort of business model. But I also use some of the money for some things that I didn't actually put into my original pitch. But I was looking at, diversifying my practice into jewellery. So as you can see in that picture on the left, I've got an online store now where I sell my jewellery, and things like, the events that people attend that I would put on might also draw them towards purchasing some of my products. So I thought I'd be super transparent about my budget. So obviously I spent a fair bit of money on things like printing the photographs, the exhibition, lots of the equipment for the workshop, building those sculptures, professional little things like business cards, having a professional website, and then the consumables and things for my business going forward with the jewellery that I've diversified into. But then I wanted to put at the bottom there, being super transparent, that a lot of the money, you have to pay yourself. This takes a long time to put this on, and you need to pay yourself a proper wage for that time that you spend doing that admin, writing, photographing your products, photographing, and to create adverts for your event. You deserve a proper fee for that. So the fund does come in sections, and so when you get that last payment, you deserve to keep that. You don't have to put every single piece of the money into the project. You deserve a wage for putting this on. So this is just going forwards now. One of the things, talking about having to be able to pay myself a wage straight out of graduating, it just freed me up really creatively to have a bit of space and a bit of time to be able to work on some new projects. So you can see the wall-based piece on that image in the left is one which has now gone on to an exhibition with the Crafts Council in Islington. So that's been really good to be able to have the sort of the headspace to create some of that bigger work and see that go on and be successful elsewhere. And then the image on the right is a new sort of concept jewellery piece for the COVID mask face covering, which I've been working on more recently. But like I say, just having that space and the time that the fund affords you to be able to carry on creatively has been really useful. And then, like I was going back to with the sort of skills and things that I've managed to pick up through delivering the workshops and the sessions, I was able to use that as evidence in an application that I made for these I Belong sessions, which the Uni Cultural Institute are running. So that's another, funded opportunity that I've successfully applied for, which again is delivering creative workshops aimed at students. And so, direct impact of the Berkofsky Prize has been, gaining another opportunity in a similar field. So I can definitely say that it was 100% worth applying for, and I'd urge all of you to think about what you want to do and put in an application. Thank you so much for listening. So I'm not going to press stop presenting. I'm just going to take my hands off the keyboard and wait till someone tells me what to do.
Thank you so much. I think we're going to move on now to Poppy. So Poppy, if you want to do the same, take control. And again, when you finish, please don't press stop presenting.
Okay, brilliant. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Oh, thank you, Katherine. I really wished I'd had your presentation when I was applying. I feel like that's really, really helpful going forward. So let's see how I do this. Okay, so yeah, hi, I'm Poppy. Like Katherine, I graduated in July 2020 from the Fine Art course at Leeds. I work with sculpture, photography, and lecture performances to explore lumps and their lumphood. I applied for the Berkofsky Award at the very beginning of last year. So this was pre-pandemic, and I plan to use the grant to hold a number of exhibitions and discussions to show my sculptures, share my creative practice in the run-up to the Fine Art degree show. But of course, this couldn't go ahead as anticipated, and so I spoke with my head of school to mitigate my ideas, and we decided that it would make sense for me to put this grant towards making work for my final assessment and to help facilitate me in creating a website so that I could show my work digitally. And then looking towards the future helped me to form a portfolio so that I could apply for postgraduate study. I've included a few images of the work I made between, I think, kind of April to November last year. Each work stems from different readings, each a form of questioning what is a lump and how might a lump situate itself. For me, I think a lump tends to be without. So without recognizable form, without present purpose, without immediate function. Unlike the consciousness we pay to objects and things, we tend to avoid and overlook encountering lumps. The Lumpenpack, Lumpensammler, and Lumpig within the German language all allude to refuge and scraps, that which is wretched or worthless. These thoughts fuel my making as the materials utilized are largely waste. The current climate crisis and ecological emergency really reinforce this decision. It compelled me to consider how I might produce work without putting further strain on our environment. The award enabled me to invest in essential tools, such as a new camera battery when my camera died, and a big roll of paper, which I used as a backdrop to take semi-professional photos from my childhood bedroom. It also meant that I could put money towards accessing research materials, so books, archives, films. Essentially, this award sustained my practice for months. Being able to produce these photographs meant that I could put myself forward for different opportunities. So my work was shortlisted for the uni's Graduate Art Prize. I was awarded the Passy Prize in Art. I was selected for Leeds Summer Group Show, published in the A&N Degree Show Guide magazine, exhibited in London's Sydenham Artists Trail, part of exhibitions in Sheffield and Leeds, and of course online. And in November last year, I began working with the Wising Arts Centre in Cambridgeshire as part of their Amplify programme, which is a residency through which I'm making digital work to broadcast via their website. And through this, I'm also completing a Gold Arts Award. I was selected for all of these various things based upon the work I produced as a result of the Berkofsky Award, proving just how exceptional this grant is. It really was a blessing. I think it really gave me the confidence and also the financial means to put myself forward for things that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to. And I now have an offer, thanks to my portfolio, to study my Masters of Fine Art at the Ruskin School of Art at the Uni of Oxford. So if everything goes to plan, that's where I'm headed this year, with massive thanks to this award. So I really implore you to apply. Just be honest, write down your thoughts, just be really, really open with this application, because they're interested. They want to hear from you. So yeah, definitely go for it, because you'll never know what's around the corner.
Cool. Thank you so much, Poppy.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Callum. Callum, I've been informed, is slideless, so you can just view this beautiful UGRE image. And yeah, Callum, if you want to come in and say your piece.
I think you're on mute, Callum.
Wow, can't believe I fell for that one. I think that's the first time I've been caught on that after months of Zooming. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, I graduated a couple of years ago, a bit longer ago, and I'm so impressed by what the other guys have done, especially in lockdown situations. It's incredible work. You know, I found out about Berkofsky about a day before I wrote the application for it. And a few months before that, I spoke to a friend of mine who pitched me this idea for a short film called Portrait, which would follow the dissemination of information following a fictional terrorist attack, presented on 3 camera phones, side by side on screen at the same time. I loved the idea, I loved the script, and he asked me to produce it for him, and I told him that it was financial impossibility, a logistical nightmare, and something we would never, ever be able to do. But when Berkofsky came around, we thought that we might have the opportunity to kind of get the funding to make something we never thought would be possible for us to make at that point in our careers. And so we rushed an application together, which I wouldn't advise doing. I'm sure the advice I should be giving is spend lots and lots of time putting it together, but we rushed one together as quickly as we could, putting in all the work we'd put on the project beforehand, and I put it into Berkofsky and was lucky enough to get the funding to put the project together, and it enabled us to, get locations we wouldn't have been able to before, to be able to pay expenses for cast and catering, get equipment, and ultimately submit it to film festivals as well. We shot over the summer of 2018, right after graduation, all across Leeds with a crew of about, I think there were 15 of us on the crew, a cast of 10 and about 30 extras as well. The scale of a project like that is not possible without funding. There's too many different parts to go around, and short film funding is really difficult to attain. And so what's so brilliant about Berkofsky is that it gives the opportunity for students who wouldn't be able to do that normally to take that next step. I think one of the interesting things Katherine brought up is about personal development, and I definitely feel, for myself and for all of our crew who worked on the project, we were able to develop our skills so significantly because the work that we did with the funding that we had allowed us to work on a much larger scale than had ever been possible for us, on much larger sets with a greater number of people and more complex equipment than we dealt with previously. Each of the cameras we used in the film it's a 8-minute long film, and each camera is a one-take shot. Which is incredibly challenging to put together, and I wasn't involved in that part of it. I was just making the machine of the production run smoothly. Our creative team were fantastic at doing that, and we're really proud of the film that we put together and been lucky enough to get into a few film festivals. But I think the biggest thing that we got out of Berkofsky was that personal development. It all gave us chance to focus on our specific crafts, right? Whether it be producing, writing, directing, working in the art department, editing, on a level, as I said, that we hadn't done before. And I know that all of our crew have used this experience to go forwards and form our careers. People of our crew have gone on to work for companies like BBC, Netflix, HBO. Some have even gone on to work for Hollywood blockbusters on superhero films and gone to pitch future shorts at Cannes Film Festival. They've all gone on to do, really incredible things. And having caught up with lots of them, as we've stayed in contact after having made the film, lots of us, including myself, credit that to the experience that we gained working on Portrait, the mistakes that we made, and the successes that we achieved as well. We were able to take to employers and show off something that really set us apart as artists, and helped us gain, those first positions in the TV or film industry. So, whether or not, whatever you do with the funding, I think it can really transform your career. And so I implore everybody to apply for it. It really is kind of life-changing. I think that's all from me.
Thank you very much. Let's see, last but not least, just before we take any questions, we have got Ed Cooper. So Ed, if you'd like to take control whenever you're ready.
Thanks very much. Carl, the other 3 guys have done really good stuff. I hope I live up to it. Cool. Is it just loading through, or?
Your arrow keys on your keyboard probably won't work because Teams is not fantastic, but there should be some arrows at like the top of the screen that you can
Oh
just
yeah,
get through.
yeah. Is that good? Can everyone see that?
I can
Not
see
yet,
it.
no, I think still uploading.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, can see it now.
Yeah. Are we all good?
Oh, I can see Callum, but yeah, good.
Yeah. I don't know if is it still stuck on him, or can everybody see the slide?
Yeah, I think if you've taken control, you should then be able to, there's some small arrows. Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Got you now, yeah.
Got you. Oh, hang on. I'll take that back. Okay, great. So that's all good. Yeah, cool. So yeah, my name's Ed Cooper and I'm a composer and sound artist, and I graduated from music in 2019. So I suppose that puts me between the other people who've spoken, which is maybe quite nice. So I did an exhibition installation, I suppose, over 2.5 days way back in October 2019 about people's perception of time. So the idea, it kind of involved people reading stuff out in the dark and walking around and having their voices played back at them at different times and things like that. It kind of required a bit of a weird setup of rooms because I needed 2 adjacent rooms that didn't bleed too much sound through. So I ended up being in like the basement of the Parkinson building, which actually was kind of ideal and very atmospheric. Yeah, and so alongside this installation part of it, did I have some more photos?
I only had those today.
Oh, okay. Well, no worries. I can just talk then.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. So alongside this, I also did kind of like a welcome event, I suppose. And for that, I ran some deep listening exercises. So deep listening is essentially just it's kind of like mindful listening. So there's various ways you can get into the to that kind of to hone that sort of oral attention, I suppose. And I also wrote a piece for a violin and cello, which was played. So the money that I spent kind of went on, I paid the performers. I had to buy some gear, although I could get a lot of it from the School of Music, which was kind of helpful because, I'm using don't get me wrong, the £2,000 grant is extremely generous. And having applied for stuff after this, you realise just how generous it is. But it's like each one of these speakers in the bottom photograph there is like, I don't know, £1,000 each. So I bought some stuff which then I've kind of kept on using. And I chose to do this in October because I stayed on and did a master's, so this functioned really nicely to kind of as a bit of a springboard into the year, because I suppose part of my reasoning for staying at Leeds for a master's was to carry on, I think, the momentum that I felt like I had at Leeds, and kind of, as well, like integrated into various like music scenes and with various organisers and generally people who I liked and who liked me, which kind of enabled me to do all this sort of stuff. And I kind of pretty much straight after this, I also used some of the money to pay myself, as Katherine did, and just through chance ended up coming into a bit more money. So ended up, I suppose, inadvertently repurposing the money that I had, well, I suppose whatever way you look at it, repurposing the money that I'd got from the Berkofsky Award to go on a course in the Pyrenees with an ensemble called Apartment House, who, an amazing group who've been playing contemporary music and experimental music, which is, I suppose, the kind of stuff that I write and I'm into internationally for years and years and years. And I think both of those two things together that were made possible because of the Berkofsky Award really propelled me into far more of like a national dialogue about, contemporary music and new music and stuff like that. Oh yeah, there's my curator space profile, which I think was so useful and exactly what I wanted to get out of firstly staying at Leeds, and also, you know, the Berkofsky in general as well. And from then, I'm now a PhD student, still at Leeds. I think this was just the right place for me, and you know, I applied before COVID kicked off. Thank God I stayed. I mean, it would be a nightmare to move to a new place, but in that application process, which is extremely competitive, and you know, is often kind of down to luck and CV fodder as much as anything else, and the quality of your work, the Berkofsky, I have no doubt, seriously helped me, and that's great because it's what I really wanted to do, and I can continue to hone my practice through the PhD, which I think, you know, was in no short part helped by the Berkofsky Award. And as I say, like £2,000 is really like a lot of money, and I think I hadn't quite appreciated that until I started, I suppose, in the summer of my final year, and then I suppose masters up until COVID happened. You know, just applying for like other arts grants and stuff like that, and it's like, yes, it's uncommon to have that much money, and especially within, you know, I suppose a like relatively focused pool of people, in that it's, you know, for the Leeds Faculty of Arts rather than anyone, which, you know, not all arts awards are that open, I suppose, but often they attract a far wider audience than Berkofsky might. So without a doubt, I would strongly encourage anyone to apply. And I think that's all I've got to say. Thanks so much to Tess and the other speakers. It's really nice to hear what you've all been up to.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everyone else who's Callum, Poppy, and Katherine. Thank you so much. So, yeah, has anyone got any questions? Because I'm sure, I mean, to be honest, I'm really annoyed now. I'm not artistic and I'm not a final year and I never got a first. So I can't apply for this scheme, but it sounds such an amazing opportunity. It's not obviously just the skills you develop it and the money, but it's something amazing to put on your CV as well. And we're definitely talking about seeing how we can create some sort of Berkofsky network. So I just think having that sort of showing the range of what you've done is incredible. And I think a lot of people either don't know about the scheme or they don't think they can apply for the scheme, but you absolutely can. And I don't know if we have some people have questions about potential projects, because I think the beauty of it is you can apply as long as there's some sort of creative element in it and it is broadly as possible. You can apply for anything. I know someone a couple of years ago essentially spent all of her money visiting archives. And that's, you know, absolutely fantastic because there was really good justifiable reasoning behind that. So has anyone got any questions? Either put it in the chat or raise your hands, or if any of our amazing speakers have a question to anyone else, please also ask that. Now, a question I was sort of going to ask Callum is, do you think, for example, there is the requirement of having to have at least one first, and I can't quite, I think it looks like it's a first in the second year, but I'm not sure about that. But I was just wondering whether, oh, by the way, just before I ask this question, I'm rambling on. Hugo, there are 5 awards each year and they're all for £2,000. But Callum, I was going to ask is, were you essentially like the front of the application because you were eligible? So essentially, were there other people behind you, sort of almost like involved in it, but you fulfilled the criteria? Oh, you're on mute again.
Twice in one day, dreadful. Yeah, so the way it worked with us is we were talking about making the film and looking for funding before we saw the award, between myself, who was producing, and Luke, who was going to direct and write the film. And when we went to apply, we looked at our grades, and mine were slightly higher in more relevant areas, and I had a bit more experience in pitch writing, and so we decided that I'd apply for it. And I think we contacted someone related to the award at the time, because we didn't know, because I hadn't come to an event like this, I didn't know that I could make a short film. I thought it was just for artists, like more specifically just art and sculpture, and I thought short films would be excluded, and didn't know if we could submit as a pair either. And Berkofsky were great and said, yeah, of course you can. And then once we got the funding, we then reached out to people we knew and collaborators, who then put us in contact with other people. And what was really great about it was there were people I'd already collaborated with who I worked on the film, but it was a really great excuse to reach out to some people who I'd always wanted to work with but never had a chance to. So although most of our crew were from the University of Leeds, we worked with people from Brighton and Glasgow and Nottingham as well, who I'd seen creative work from throughout university, and had a chance to work with them too. So yeah, it was great to be able to work on it as part of a big team.
Fantastic, thank you. Oh, I don't know. So Mia has asked a question, wondering if you specified in the application the workshops, talks, seminars you were going to do in addition to. So I think it's saying how specific is the question. How specific do you have to be in your application? I guess it could make it stronger, but also they also understand that you might not necessarily know what you're going to do as a result of the research. So, Katherine?
I think, yeah, so I definitely spelled out, first of all, I'm an artist. This is a kind of taste of what my practice is. I didn't really go on about that too much, but, it's just a couple of sentences about, the kind of general themes of my work. And then it was kind of like, what I want to do is I want to create an exhibition with an accompanying event, which will, bring some of these themes and ideas out in a discussion with a wider audience who might not necessarily be from an artistic background, members of the public, students, things like that. And then I sort of said, the way I would like to do that is I'd like to structure a day that happens like at my exhibition. I didn't say, where I needed the venue to be. I didn't say which works were going to be in the exhibition. You don't need to be that specific. But I did have the idea that it was going to be a 3-part day. It was going to be lecture followed by roundtable discussion followed by practical workshop. But yeah, just with each of those points, just kind of saying, OK, so the first part will help people to understand the ideas. The second part will help people to relate these ideas into their personal experiences and share these. And then the third part is going to be, this kind of just a nice practical session to round off the day. And that might help attract a more wide audience. So, with each of the sections, I could say how it was reaching my aim. But I didn't have to know, exactly what I was going to do in my workshop. I didn't have to know where I was going to be, how many people it was going to be. That was all sort of left up, but I'd had this sort of the general framework. But what I think I took away from the other guys as well, because I wasn't sure if it was just me, that, I sort of thought when I was writing the application, do I need to write something that looks like it will cost £2,000? Because I don't know if I can do that. So I kind of just put in what I thought I could achieve. And then obviously had a fair bit of money sort of left over. So it's been quite nice to see that I've done a similar thing to other people, which is that you use it for the next thing that you want to do. So I think they know that you're not going to have, how it's going to impact your career planned out, because you can't know how this is going to impact you going forwards. So do something that you think is achievable. Don't worry about trying to make it this big grand event that's going to cost the earth. I understand that maybe Callum's was a bit different because you already had all these amazing people to collaborate with and that you wanted to pay a fair wage to. But yeah, just do something that's sort of within your means that you think is achievable, ambitious but achievable. And, if you have some money left over that you can then use to apply for that next thing or buy that next piece of equipment or upgrade something or, to help you travel to that next opportunity or something. I think that's really what they understand, that you're allowed to have that breathing space within the fund to take it forward onto the next thing.
Have any of the others, anyone else got anything to add to Katherine's comments?
I think kind of just on the actually, I'm not sure exactly what point I was drawing off there, but what we found with the funding really useful for us was because I think you were mentioning, paying everyone a fair wage, which I'd love to say that we did and that we had the money to, but it was all too far-reaching, so we all just worked as volunteers on it. But so many of us hadn't worked with a lot of the equipment and so our art department, for example, had never had a budget to go out and create their art for a set before. They'd always used it out of their own pocket. So to be given money and said, look, this is a chunk of money for you to, we filmed in the Union corridors and we turned it into a train station, and they'd never had, they'd been given maybe 20 quid by someone before, and we kind of gave them a few £100s and said, go and turn this into a train station, however much you need, we'll give you the money to make that possible. And our editors were given, sound banks for the first time to use SFX from, which they'd never had before. They were always kind of just scrounging for free stuff online. And so I think for a lot of us, it was, we hadn't ever had actually a budget for our films before. It was always zero budget, making it out of our own pockets, and to actually have the money to spend and give it actual production value, as opposed to what favors can we pull in to make this possible, was, it felt like such a step up from what we'd been making as a student, and I don't think we would have been able to do that, otherwise.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Hugo. You go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah. There's a couple of people here that have some questions, but there's a tech thing that means they can't access the chat. So I'll just.
Oh no. Okay. Do you know the questions?
Yes. So, it's just what criteria do they have to fulfill? Do you have to be a graduate? Can you apply as a second year? I assume it factors in stuff like, do you need a first and that as well? So.
Yes, you do have to be someone who's graduating this year, but you will be allowed to apply for it next year. So it is just a scheme just for finalists. So sorry about that. If you're a second year, keep an eye out for the Q-Step summer placement scheme. It's a totally different scheme to this, but you will develop research skills and you get paid for it. But unfortunately, it is only for final year students. I believe you have to have at least one first, if not two. I can't paste it, but if you Google Berkofsky Arts Prize, you should be able, Arts Award, sorry. You should be able to find the information there for the funding criteria and things like that. But let me know if you're struggling. Tess Hornsby-Smith, if you're at the University of Leeds, you should be able to find my email somewhere, or you've probably got lots of emails from me. So yeah, there, I think a couple, was there anything else or?
No, yeah, that was it.
That was it. The other thing I was going to say is the actual Berkofsky top brass people don't check up on you, do they? Do you just have, sorry, this sounds like it was bad because obviously you're all wanting to achieve and you have achieved a lot, but essentially is it just one report you have to write?
You have to write 2 reports. So you write an interim report and then you write your final report. And that's sort of how they break up the funding. So when you get awarded it, you get the first sort of lump sum. I can't remember if that's 1,000. And then I think when you write your interim report, you get 400. And then when you submit your final report, that's 600. But you've got all the way up from like when you finish your course to then like December to submit the final report. So so when you can take quite a long time over that. But I mean, I found them very supportive if I reached out for guidance, because I was kind of concerned that when the interim report was due, that because we'd literally been in lockdown the whole time, I hadn't got very much done apart from a bit of networking. And I was a bit like, oh God, I can't just get that, put that on my form. But they were like, absolutely, you can. We can see that you're obviously working on it in the background. Don't worry about it. But yeah, you don't have to submit any of the what you spend the money on. You never have to justify like how you spent the money, which I thought was really quite nice because you can just show them the end result. You give them proof of what you did, and that's it. Yeah, so 2 reports and then some proof, like some pictures or a video or something like that, or links to websites and things like that.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone or any other comments from our amazing presenters? If not, then I just wanted to say thank you all so much. Really appreciate you all coming, especially because you're no longer here at Leeds and you don't have to do anything. So I really appreciate it. And I think that it really, you know, people who've been here today obviously can be really inspired, but also we'll have people who'll be able to watch the video after and have got a week or so to get their applications in and hopefully not do a Callum and write it the day before, but obviously it worked for you. So yeah, tomorrow we've got another amazing event at the Undergraduate Research Experience. It's such a fantastic week so far, and we're just so inspired by our students. So anything from Black women in rock against racism to the Tara symbol, Tara brooch in Irishness. So it's a really cool event. We've also got Isabel, who is doing about World War II and impact on fashion consumption, but also Dominic, who's doing a workshop on translating the arts. So that'd be quite good fun. It's only 10 minutes. And then the next is a session from students who are doing a module which is all about studying the archive, and so they've all done different types of archival projects, anything from the first feminist to the year in life of Lady Elizabeth Ingleby, who is, it's all about the should we be researching boring people, and it's just really fascinating. So please come along to this event or the rest of the week or the after show party where we've got comedian and musical performances. She is very boring, actually. So like Hugo's comment, but the presentation isn't boring. Honestly, the presentation's great. Yeah, she won't be upset. So yeah, please, thank you again for coming along today, and hopefully we'll see you the rest of the week. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, everyone.
No worries.
Pleasure to meet
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Really brilliant.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.